this is a big one. Trump and Elon have caught the Democrats doing their dirty deals. We now have evidence and testimony before Congress that USAID was used by Democrats to push Donald Trump's impeachment in his first term and to push the Russian collusion hoax as well. Your tax dollars were propaganda weaponized against Trump. Trump says they have evidence now that Biden and Mayorkas purposefully, and the Democrats and rhinos, Republicans, set up the tariffs in a way where they were getting kickbacks by not tariffing other countries, but with the United States, were tariffed 25, 50, and even 100% on goods that came into the United States. There's also this coalition of blue states that are challenging the role Elon Musk has as head of DOGE, and every blue state that was getting funding for all their progressive left ideologies when it came to schooling, when it came to the sanctuary city status, is all gone. So now they're all trying to impeach Elon Musk. Pam Bondi cut off their funding for sanctuary cities. The DOJ has cut off also the funding for the Federal Department of Education, of money going to those cities and states. And now they're trying to get Elon Musk out, going through the courts. This is beginning to be one of the biggest fights ever. But I will say, when you cut off the money supply, you see the fraudsters quickly show themselves. They used taxpayer money to go against Trump. They used tariffs to put more money into kickbacks in their own pockets for their family members and whatnot. And it's all being exposed right now in Congress. We have the video evidence for you. On top of that, money talks. Gavin Newsom just caved to Trump's immigration policies after Pam Bondi removed all the funding from his state. Newsom will veto a bill from his own party that would have blocked state prisons from working with ICE. Money talks, everybody. We got a big show for you today. Wow. Just want to say thank you to everybody that is watching. Thank you to all of our subscribers. If you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. Let me take care of you every day with the top news. I want to say thank you to all of our members of the channel. If you want to be a member, the link is in the description. I want to say thank you to everybody that gives a super chat donation. Thank you so much, Elaine Demeen. Y'all show Elaine some love in the chat. And want to say, everybody, we created a Facebook page. So if you want to join us on Facebook, the link is in the description. And just want to say thank you to all of our supporters in every way, guys. When you share this video, and if you don't mind clicking the thumbs up like button, guys, you're our sponsors. We don't have sponsors on this channel. So when you hit that like button, you're sponsoring our channel to grow out there and get more views and to be shown more. But this is evidence, guys. We are seeing everything change right before our eyes. Here is all the things. I want to bring the receipts for you. Bondi launches investigation into Biden's alleged politicization of the DOJ. This is happening, guys. On top of that, we showed you that DOGE discovers that Biden Mayorkas illegal immigration funding machine. And this is just the beginning. It's continuously getting deeper and deeper and deeper. Now we have what we're showing you, testimony on Congress Hill. The USAID was used in a treasonous way against the United States. Check this out.
Mr. Schellenberger, can you explain how you traced USAID funding that served as the basis for whistleblower report in 2019, which led to the impeachment of President Trump?
Sure. Well, you may remember that the so-called whistleblowers in the White House was actually a CIA analyst. And in that whistleblower's complaint, which led to the impeachment, one of the central pieces of evidence was created by a USAID funded and controlled organization called the OCCRP. And we have another piece out today about how it participated in the Russiagate hoax as well, creating essentially very important information leading to that. So, I mean, you have in USAID a much larger fund of money and a much broader strategy for information control that included censorship, but also, as I mentioned, taking control of investigative journalism really worldwide. I mean, its ambitions were, amazing. So yeah, I mean, that's an agency. When we saw that get shut down by DOGE, I thought that was completely appropriate. If there's something in there that it was doing that's valuable, then you could refund it later. But my view, same thing with CISA, death penalty for organizations that participated in violations of the First Amendment like CISA. Cybersecurity is an extremely important function. It shouldn't be contaminated and undermined by censorship activities.
Well, I think it's always been known that our government has funded the change in administrations, if we can say it politely, of other governments. But isn't it borderline treason when the taxpayer is, when organizations entrusted with protecting our country are now undermining our own government?
Treason.
Absolutely. I mean, if you're trying to do regime change, illegal, if you're weaponizing DHS, FBI, CISA, that's treasonous regime change activities redirected, that you developed abroad, that we developed abroad for regime change, directed against the American people and our representatives. I mean, it's shocking, and we still haven't dealt with it as a country.
Mr. Chairman, I see my time has expired. I'd like to introduce into the record, or ask unanimous consent to introduce into the record, an article in Newsmax, Schellenberger, USAID paid for Trump impeachment effort, dated February 6, 2025.
Without objection.
Guys, do you hear this? This is treasonous. This was 100% operated, orchestrated by the Biden administration. Guys, we are finally uncovered. They have been caught. We have finally have the evidence. We finally, with DOGE, this is why they're fighting DOGE so hard. We finally are able to expose them for the fraud, for the treasonous acts they've done, for allowing so many into the southern border. Thank you, Sherry Garcia, for the super chat. Let's go. Said, liked in at my number 52. Y'all show Sherry some love in the chat. Guys, listen to this, because this is just the beginning.
Doing is trying to fix a trade war. It's been going on forever. I'm going to give you the quick scoop on this. I'm going to tell you exactly what's happening. Have no fear. Check this out.
And on trade, I have decided, for purposes of fairness, that I will charge a reciprocal tariff, meaning whatever countries charge the United States of America, we will charge.
Oh, 1 second, guys. Oh, no, what? I apologize.
We will charge them, no more, no less. In other words, they charge us a tax or tariff, and we charge them the exact same tax or tariff. Very simple. Nobody knows what that number is unless you go by the individual country. You can see what it is if you go to the individual country and you look at what they're charging us. In almost all cases, they're charging us vastly more than we charge them, but those days are over.
Now, of course, this is great. Very nice, guys. I did not, that FAFO thing is all them. The FOing continues. Why? The media's hair's on fire, of course, accusing Donald Trump of he's starting a trade war. He's going to crash the economy. Why exactly? Do you understand what tariffs are? Let me tell you what tariffs aren't, okay? Anyone who tells you that tariffs aren't taxes is lying. Tariffs are taxes. I kind of just told you what they are in a backwards way. They are taxes. Republicans hate taxes. Conservatives hate taxes. Dan, why are you supporting tariffs? I'm not. And neither is Donald Trump there, if you listen to what he just said. Donald Trump uses tariffs as a weapon. If you don't understand that, I'm serious, this show's not for you. You may want to depart. It's not an airport. You don't have to announce it. I'm just saying it's not for you. He has repeatedly done this. He understands that tariffs are taxes, okay? Those taxes already exist on United States exports. In other words, if Johnny Bag of Donuts in Iowa is selling milk to Canada and they import milk from us and they tariff it, then that milk, U.S. milk, is more expensive due to the tax. So what Donald Trump is saying is, if you're going to tax our stuff, we're going to tax your milk or whatever it is when it comes down south from Canada into the United States until you get rid of the tariff. That's what he...
Guys, thank you so much for your support, guys. Literally have almost 1,100 people watching, guys. Remember, you're my sponsors. If you don't mind clicking the thumbs up like button, it really does help out so much. Remember, our goal, let's get to 2,000 likes on stream, guys. We can do it. Thank you so much, Woodbury Hill Studio, who said happy Friday and Valentine's Day, everybody. And Sherry Garcia, thank you so much, said if we pay taxes, are we undermining our government? I don't know. Y'all show Sherry and Woodbury Hill Studio some love in the chat.
Means by reciprocal tariffs. He's got Howard Lutnick the Department of Commerce secretary, a great pick, by the way, standing right next to him, who goes on to explain it later in the clip. I don't want to beat this thing to death again, hit you with an economic segment at the beginning of the show, but it's just again incredible how many left-wing progressive lunatics don't even understand what Trump is saying and reflexively hate it. The left, we love taxes. Well, why don't you like tariffs? Because Donald Trump said it. Tariffs are going to make stuff more expensive. Our stuff's already more expensive overseas. Donald Trump's saying make it less expensive. Unless you reciprocally get rid of yours, we're not going to get rid of ours. I want you to understand that you are better than them. I know these are kind of ridiculous arguments to make because you already know that, but I don't mean better like you were created like superhumans. I mean better in that the MAGA movement is bedrocked in real conversations that are hard to have. It is really difficult to have a conversation about Ukraine where you have to say, yes, Ukraine did not deserve this invasion. Yes, I wish Vladimir Putin would leave the Ukrainians alone and let them live in peace. But you haven't presented to me a viable reason why an 18-year-old American from Dubuque should go over there and die for a cause that may not be winnable. That's a hard conversation to have. The left doesn't have to do that because they lie about everything all the time. And this DOGE effort is freaking them out because it's finally exposing the cesspool waste pile your government has been forever. So they just make up talking points. The DOGE wasn't elected. Nobody in the executive branch was elected but Vance and Trump. Who the hell was elected? Pam Bondi? She's still the attorney general. What are you talking about? It's not how the government works. Watch VDH. Victor Davis Hanson. We haven't used any of his stuff in a while. This guy's fantastic. Explain the DOGE and USAID. It's a good one. Check this out.
This Department of Government Efficiency is not a cabinet agency. He does not have to be approved by Congress. And only is going to last till July 4th, 2026. It's not a permanent agency. As far as the executive orders that created the DOGE program and eliminated USAID, that was perfectly legal in itself. AID was created by John F. Kennedy in 1961 by an executive order. As far as impounding funds, Joe Biden set the precedent. You all saw him on tape when he said, SOB, the son of I went in over there to Ukraine, and I said, you're not getting this $1 billion until you do this. Well, that money had been approved by Congress. And when he became president, there was a statute that said, here's the money to build the wall. And Joe Biden canceled the wall. That was illegal. But he came up with all these, we have to do environmental studies or endangered species, but he didn't spend the money. All Donald Trump is doing is saying, well, I don't believe the Impoundment Act is legal. We'll see if what the Supreme Court, but I'm just following the precedent that Joe Biden did. But now the shoe's on the other foot.
You see how every single thing they tell you is a lie? You can't establish the DOGE by executive order to look into USAID. USAID was founded by executive order. There was later legislation, no doubt, but there's no disputing the fact that USAID, what Victor Davis Hanson just said, was established by executive order. Nothing they tell you is real. Are you a liberal watching this show who just learned that for the first time? What's your comeback to that? No, I'm serious. What's your comeback? You don't have one. You're just making it up.
Guys, let me tell you this. The new discovered evidence, DOGE discovers the Biden-Mayorkas illegal immigration funding machine. I just showed you that USAID, before Congress, under oath, testified they were used to impeach Donald Trump with propaganda. It was used to push the Russian collusion hoax upon Trump to get him impeached, all funded by USAID. Right now, guys, huge cuts are coming. Trump budget bill with $4.5 trillion in tax cuts, survives key hurdle despite that the Houses and the GOP are fighting. Some of them wanted one bill, some of them wanted two bills, but they've at least secured the tax cuts, no tax on Social Security, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. They're trying to work to get the inheritance tax repealed as well. And there's also a new wave. Guys, this is huge. There's also a new wave. It just started in Florida to remove property taxes. They're saying that it's unconstitutional because if you don't pay your property taxes, the government will come and take your home. But now they're pushing, saying that we can alleviate those and get past it so people actually own their own dang home or their own land. And what I love is the transparency we're getting. What you're about to hear, guys, on the inside. Check this out.
You get real about it, you don't need a $900 billion defense budget. I'm a hawk, and I'm telling you, you don't need one. That's all because those pigs at the trough in Munich that got their snouts down there big. And this budget we just came out with, they're cutting Medicaid. And hey, I'm all for cutting Medicaid. If it's illegal aliens on there, waste, fraud, and abuse, all of it, right? All of it. And if it's excess, but we have to also have a wake-up call here. The working class in this country have been so underpaid by the corporations we gave tax breaks to and the people that the corporations shipped all the jobs overseas. So people don't have high value-added good paying jobs anymore, just a reality. If they don't want to be on Medicaid, but they are on Medicaid. You can't be cutting that until you get to the defense budget. You got to get across the Potomac. You got to face facts. You got to face a hard reality. And the Europeans are getting it today with both barrels. They got Pete Heggs at one barrel yesterday. Got the other barrel, J.D. Vance, today. J.D. said, hey, I don't want to hear all your whining. I don't want to hear all this because, no offense, you guys allowed the mass migration, i.e. the invasion of your country. You welcomed it, Merkel. Remember that used to be at the train station sitting there, welcome. But hey, they waited at the train station yesterday in Munich when the guy with the car ran over another 15 or 20 people, or was it Cologne? A couple of weeks ago, where they're driving into the Christmas, the Christmas village. They welcome them. They on those trains. I said at the time when this started with Merkel, when I was covering for Breitbart, I said, hey, they're not going to be welcome in a couple of years because they do not assimilate. They do not assimilate, and they got a chip on their shoulder, and they want to take this place over, and that's what's happening. Full on, full stop. You told the elites of Europe, guess what? You're not a vassal state. You're not a protectorate. How can know they're not a protectorate? Look, go to Gstaad, go to Provence, go to the south of France, go to Tuscany, go to the West End of London. There's more money there. Europe's got money all over the place. You know where it's not down with their defense. If they're so worried about Russia, this is a Russian army that's lost, according to President Trump, 750,000 men either killed or wounded, and they have not taken Kharkiv yet. They're backed up in Kursk in their territory, and they've not even come close to taking Kyiv. They're still short of the Dnieper River. You're telling me that's going to roll across Poland, the North German plain? No, forget it. That's not the army that we forward deployed tactical nuclear weapons, the Pershing missiles back in the early 80s, about when the European elites had a meltdown, when we bailed them out for the third time. We bailed you out enough. You got to bail yourselves out. You can take your resources. You're so concerned. This is why Trump, we pay 3.4%. It's outrageous. Our defense budget is percentage of GDP. They pay under 2%. And I was tasked with sitting down with these guys and said, yo. It's not even 2%. When you go in there, it's got women's health care, it's got Green New Deal, it's got all this crap. I said, no, I want to see maneuvers, I want to see training, I want to see interoperability, I want to see weapons. I want to see how NATO stands up more than 2 combat divisions. NATO is a paper tiger. Everybody knows this is an open secret. The biggest fight they have in NATO, because every quarter they have a maneuver, they have these maneuvers, these operations, and every quarter, the kind of administrative leadership in Brussels changes to a new partner. Poland one day, one quarter, UK the next, the United States one, Italy the next. The biggest fights they have is how to make sure they're out of and don't have, they're not stuck with one of the big maneuvers because they've got to pay the extra money. That's how serious an ally they are.
Mm-hmm.
They should have gotten the joke. And this is my problem with the defense budget.
Guys, I want to say thank you so much for your support, guys. If you don't mind clicking the thumbs up like button, guys, y'all are the best. Thank you so much for your support.
President Trump has given you a hemispheric defense. From the Panama Canal to Greenland and the Arctic, we're going to hermetically seal that part of Central and North America. Yep. You're going to seal it with Alaska and Greenland and the Arctic and maybe eventually Canada. And Canada's going to step up to the plate because you're going to lose your territorial integrity and your sovereignty up there. We just got breaking news right here. Gavin Newsom has basically thrown in the towel, at least partially, on sanctuary cities. He's going to veto a bill passed in that radical legislature in California that doubles down on sanctuary cities, doubles down on fighting President Trump. I think this is the $50 million bill. As we said, there won't be a penny, and I think Ambassador Grinnell agrees, there won't be a penny of relief until that bill's rescinded. There won't even be discussions about money going out there. If you're going to double down, if you're looking for citizens of this country to come in and help rebuild Southern California after these tragic fires, at the same time you're going to fight getting rid of illegal alien invaders from the country, from the state of California specifically, and you're going to have these sanctuary cities that are just going to thwart the ICE agents and others on this deportation, you're not going to get any money. He folded. Gavin Newsom. In New York City,
yes.
Remember, L.A., Chicago, New York City. Chicago's already they're throwing down hard. Pritzker's basing his 28 run. This is his launch, so they're not going to back off. You're going to. I think you have to go in and arrest him.
Dang.
In New York City, this gets to the centerpiece right now of this controversy that took place overnight. And I'm not saying it's a quid pro quo, but it's been open that the Trump administration wants Eric Adams to cooperate on this situation of sanctuary cities. Let's be blunt. Given the rollout of ICE, and it was fantastic, we still got, you got 12 million people got to go. We got to ramp it up. One's logistics. This is why in all these confusing reconciliation that's going on, the one thing you should understand is they want more money for defense, another $100 billion for defense, and they want $175 billion. I want that to sink in for a second. What Biden and these people did, and to me, we should go sue these guys that did it. One, there should be criminal charges. Number two, there should be civil action. It's $175 billion we need to get all the infrastructure, logistics, and operations to secure the border and to get the illegal aliens, invaders out of the country. $175 billion in a nation that doesn't have it. In a nation, this budget deal, which I'll go through momentarily, next couple of blocks, the budget deal is going to, cut a couple $100 billion from Medicaid. And supposedly it's not going to cut any Medicaid in areas of the country that MAGA or others are in. It's going to do for illegal alien invaders, I think $100 billion out of that. And also put work requirements in, which should be in for everybody. $175 billion. And you have these mayors, these big cities, to get to the illegal criminals, alien criminals, you got to go to the jails, the prisons, state prisons and jails that are right there. They're being thwarted.
Guys, let me tell you this. Their Homan is coming after them. Check this out, guys. This is beautiful. This is accountability. Right here, AOC will face charges for teaching illegal immigrants how to avoid capture by ICE. She literally held classes to teach people, don't do this, don't do that. Here's the pamphlets, here's that. And guess what? She's impeding ICE officials. She's impeding immigration policy. They said, you know what? We're coming after you. This is what I love, guys. This is accountability at its best. And I wanted to show you this, guys. So right now, the cases that are being filed by a coalition of blue states challenging Elon Musk's role as head of DOGE will be heard and ruled on by Tanya Chutkan, the judge who gave Jack Smith everything he wanted in the January 6th hoax. It's all coordinated. It's all a hoax. I hope people can see through this, but we've got to figure out a way. And I hope, because I think Elon will get on this, to be able to bypass all this weaponization of the judges. Because you know if you get a left-leaning judge, they're going to rule left-leaning. Thank you so much, Andy, for the super chat. Let's go. He said, DOGE investigation finally forces Congress to admit the U.S. government's long history of financing Al-Qaeda, the Taliban, and ISIS. 100%. That's what we showed yesterday's video. I love it. Lay Lewis, thank you so much for the super chat. Said, hey, Joel, what's the status on our shirts? Guys, I've got samples being sent to me right now and mid-March launch, but we're getting the best of the best, guys. We're making sure that when you buy this shirt, it's top quality for the True Life News merchandise, and it's going to last a long time. And thank you so much, Virginia Friday, for the super chat. Said, Joel, Ms. Tracy J. Norby's asked you the question. Happy Valentine's Day, everyone. I love it. Y'all show Virginia, Lay Lewis, and Andy some love in the chat. The next piece, guys, again, I'm telling you, mark my words, guys, I'm telling you. I believe that with what's happening, we're going to see a new Democratic Party emerge, because what emerged out of Republicans? MAGA. There's going to be something that emerges out of the Democrats, because the Democratic Party right now is going so far left, they're losing a ton of people. Check this out.
Demanding reparations and forming trans sanctuary cities. That's what we voted against. But liberal leaders are still stuck in the past, way in the past, like the 60s. Democrats want to feel important, like the activists of the civil rights era, but big difference. Back then, they had something to fight for and against, but now they don't have a cause. They're just making up problems.
You had mentioned trying to engage more women in manufacturing. I'm just wondering if just the name manufacturing sounds like a guy. And how can we get more? Certainly, there's a lot of room for women. What are you doing to make that happen?
Wow.
Democrats' only purpose is to resist the guy who won in a landslide, and now they're the pro-fraud, pro-waste, and pro-criminal party. The New York Times. They're complaining that the criminal illegals in Gitmo are being watched by troops.
Ooh,
they're in Gitmo. Who do you think works there? Social workers with clipboards? No, these are tough criminals, and they need tougher guys keeping them in check. But the Times wants bad hombres to eat 5-star meals. 2 people with knowledge of the prison operation said the detainees are being fed prepackaged military rations known as MREs, or meals ready to eat. MREs are what our troops eat in war zones. Hegseth ate a few in Afghanistan. If it's good enough for the defense secretary, it's good enough for the migrants. And the last time we gave them a nice meal, they threw it in the trash. This is why nobody trusts the press. They act like free food is the same as waterboarding. Trump's supposed to be good for ratings, but America's changing the channel on the establishment.
Is it a problem that a significant portion of the country is kind of excluded from your show or late night television?
Ooh.
Is it a problem? I don't know if it's a problem. I think that we'd have higher ratings if they weren't. But, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, what's really important is we have to remind people over and over again that this is not normal, and this is not safe, and this is not good for any of us.
Cutting fraud and deporting migrants is good for you too, Kimmel, whether you like it or not. The country loves it. For the first time in decades, more people say the country's headed in the right direction instead of the wrong direction. That's politically devastating for Democrats, and the Republican Party's united. No more runaway rhinos charging into the resistance.
Some responsible conservative Republican was going to save us from this.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't come. They're not there. Okay, let's just get over it. They're not coming. The cavalry's not coming. The courts are not coming. Nothing.
Democrats are on the field all alone. They might never win another game.
The New York Football Giants have experienced a really interesting year in that we kind of sucked and the bet a bit. And the reason I bring it up is, boy, do the Giants feel like the Democratic Party in that the personnel decisions that everything that they are doing could not work out more humiliatingly. Boy, they better clean their up if they want to compete, because the ass kicking that's been laid upon them in all aspects sometimes feels like a permanent state.
The only way for them to pull themselves out of the mud is a little self-reflection. Liberal celebrities are starting to understand why Trump won. Seth Rogen said,
Hey guys, thank you so much. We just crossed 1,000 likes, guys. Got over 1,800 people watching. Remember, guys, you are my support and sponsors. Let's get to 2,000 likes on stream, guys. We can do it. Thank you so much for your support.
this, people get sick of seeing effing hippies doing acid and effing on their lawns. And they're like, let's effing clean up these streets a little bit. When the guy from Sausage Party is your voice of reason, you're in trouble. Democrats are stuck on crazy. They'll side with the hippie doing acid over their common sense neighbors just to resist Trump. But Trump's tearing through the resistance with the help of a rocket scientist. Trump and Musk, much like they did in the private sector, set their own new limits of authority by stating them emphatically and acting aggressively. Both think conventional, polite, rule-following CEOs and leaders are suckers and conformists. They believe wimps and posers play by the rules, worry about hurt feelings or damaged lives, and seek consensus. Axios calls it masculine maximalism. The rest of us call it being a leader.
Men aspire to be bigger, stronger, and faster than we are, almost universally. That's why superheroes are popular. That's why pro athletes are popular.
Yep.
Who is the most masculine Democrat right now in America? Mayor Pete.
But Trump's like a grandpa.
Well, hold on.
Yeah.
Trump took a bullet in his ear and immediately stood up and said, fight, fight, fight. Every man in America and most of the women out here were impressed by that, even if the women won't admit it. She's shaking her head strong. And second part of this, basically summing it up, Democrats for men are and Republicans
Democrats for men
are. There are no masculine men in the Democrat.
Guys, look, he said it, I didn't. I mean, you cannot deny that more masculine men, the majority of them, are on the Republican conservative side. It is what it is. We just got more testosterone, and we're not drinking all that soy milk, we don't have higher levels of estrogen, which I'm telling you guys, there's a lot of stuff like my wife has found out and I found out in certain foods, all the extra estrogen they have. Why do you think we have more feminine guys? You know, boys, I have a 1-year-old boy. He's supposed to be running around, pushing things, fighting, getting around, because he's a boy. But what I saw earlier, there was one thing that said the reason when you put him in a classroom and you expect them to sit down and listen and not move and not jump and not be little boys, and then the teachers get mad because they're not listening, and then what do? They try to pump them and go say, hey, he needs to be on ADHD medicine, because all they want to do is suppress him. That's literally been the Democratic Party, and that's what they've been trying to do to men, is suppress men over the past 50 years to make us so that we're not who we are, of being masculine, of actually having the backbone to stand up for our beliefs. And I love it because we're seeing a totally different change. Trump is an alpha male. Elon Musk is an alpha male. Guys, I wanted to show you this. Attorney General Pam Bondi has sued to end illegal voting in New York. New York, I'm telling you, something's about to go down with that dang city and state. New York moves to allow 800,000 non-citizens to vote in local elections. They're literally pushing the dial, guys. And Pam Bondi said, we're going to cut their funding. They're not going to get any federal money because y'all keep trying to fight the Trump's agenda. On top of that, the House GOP panel passed budget blueprint with $4.5 trillion cuts and steep spending reductions. So it has to pass certain committees for it. This is Trump's big, huge bill, guys. of all the things that we want. No tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime, all the tax cuts, making them permanent. And it's just past a huge hurdle that is going to put us in a really good spot. I want to show you this, guys, because again, right now, we are having hearings in the Senate that are literally exposing all the corruption from the Biden administration. Listen to this.
Thank you. It's been bandied about that certain things are illegal, and I think it's worth a little bit of discussion over that. You know, inspector generals have been let go, people at the USAID have been let go, and it's been alleged that this is illegal. It's actually a little more complicated than that. This goes all the way back to Andrew Johnson and his fight with Congress. There was a tenure of office act that was passed, and it said that he couldn't even fire members of his cabinet. And they were in the same party. The Republicans controlled Congress, and Johnson at the time, I guess, had become a Republican, being Lincoln's vice president. But it was finally repealed, but there was a big dispute over the way he could even hire members of his cabinet. Later in 1926, in Myers versus the U.S., the court rules that you really can't restrict a president's right to hire and fire their cabinet. Now, it's gone beyond that. In 2020 or 2021, the CFPB that was referred to earlier, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the Democrats created this, and they didn't want it ever to go away. The funding was supposed to go on forever, and the person in charge of it was not to be fired. Well, the court ruled that you can't do that. You can't set up an executive agency under the auspices of the president and say you can't fire them. So then there's a question with the inspector generals, and the Trump administration is challenging it, and I think we have to go with what the court decides, but there is legislation saying you can't fire them. He asserts that under the court precedents that he can, and so this is an argument. That's what constitutional law and separation of powers is about. So we'll find out whether it's legal or illegal, but at this point it's an allegation that it's illegal. With regard to the waste and abuse and the outrageous things that we're seeing, sure, it draws the attention. It should draw the attention. But there is also the question of where the money comes from. What we bring in tax revenue is equal to about 4 programs: Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, and food stamps would soak up all of the revenue. There's nothing left. So when we vote on a budget as Congress for military and non-military, what's called discretionary spending, which is a third of all spending, it's all borrowed. Nearly $2 trillion, what we vote on, it's all borrowed. So this gets to the point that I'll ask both of you on foreign aid. If it's about $40 billion, do you think we could just get better people over there and they won't do the bad projects? Or do you think maybe they need a smaller number in order to have an incentive to cut out the waste? We'll start with Mr. Ruger, Dr. Ruger.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. There's very little incentive for agencies to get lean when the money keeps coming through the door. In fact, even if you increase the aid, or the support rather, then why would they change? I think this is the case in almost every government agency out there, is that putting it on a diet means that it will actually work better. When the budgets are bloated, then you see some of these less prioritized or less important projects are not scrapped or subject to the same type of analysis in terms of their benefits relative to their costs that we would like to see.
Okay.
One thing I would like to say also is that given the potential for USAID and the State Department to pursue different and potentially contradictory goals, it's also good governance to actually try to find a different architecture that can make sure that the money that is spent is actually doing so for a common purpose and achieving a common end, as opposed to being potentially contradictory here. And that's one of the challenges that I think Secretary Rubio is trying to handle with this reform that he's already started down the path for.
Mr. Schellenberger?
Yeah, of course, I absolutely agree. You can't get efficiency if you have a big or growing budget. I think the other issue is that what is this money actually for? And I think the fact that they're putting it in State Department is correct. If this is about, our relations with foreign countries, encouraging the kind of governments we want, discouraging the kind of governments we don't want, might call that regime change, that belongs in State Department. Even on things that seem innocent, like food aid, there's been a long literature of academic studies on really big driver of starvation and hunger in poor countries tends to be war. It tends to be used as a weapon of war. Countries that are so vulnerable that they depend on food imports and can't afford to replace them if the U.S. were to end those are countries that have a huge food sustainability problem. They have problems that go much deeper than just not being, not getting that month's shipment of food from us. I think if we want to subsidize American farmers, that's a question that needs to be discussed, and economists and others can debate that. But I think this idea that somehow it's good to just dump food on poor countries has been shown to really be quite devastating in many cases, undermining the local farmers who are actually required to make those countries self-sufficient. So I think if we're really concerned about helping poor countries to develop, then we have to have an eye towards self-sufficiency and self-reliance, and not just endless dependence on the United States.
Apparently, I'm the last person to vote, and they really want me to go vote. So I'm going to go vote, and nobody's here to object. I'm going to leave it open because there's one more senator coming, and she's going to gavel it closed when she gets here, Senator Ernst. And I'm going to let her ask questions for as long as she wants, and she gets to end it. But if you wouldn't mind sitting patiently, she wants to ask a few questions.
Guys, let me tell you this. What I love is that it's common sense type of stuff. None of this. Like he just said, everything that we bring in, we literally send out. So whenever we have all these additional spending programs, we've got to make cuts somewhere. And if we don't, then we're just going to keep having more debt. And we have to realize that stuff has to change. I saw this, guys. If this isn't the most boss move ever by a president, this is Donald Trump's mugshot from one of the times that they indicted him and he had to go and fingerprints and all that stuff. Look where it's at, guys. Tell me you don't love this. And if you don't mind, guys, supporting us, clicking the thumbs up like button, it really does help out so much. Let's get to 2,000 likes, guys. We can do it. Watch where this photo is at. That's his mugshot. Right before you walk into the Oval Office. Is that not a boss move or what? And what I love, guys, is again, special counsel Alina Habba is giving us a lot of insight. There is over 30 lawsuits targeted towards Trump right now, targeted towards Elon Musk right now. We have to think like, what the heck? Like literally judges, almost every Democratic state judge, attorney general is trying to go after them. Listen to this.
Joining us with more, Counselor to the President, Alina Habba. Let's start with those two. We're good to have you, by the way. Let's start with those last two items. It's interesting because the president gets elected to do a job. I think there are 40 lawsuits in total out there against Donald Trump and the administration so far. But I believe the courts, as part of the executive branch, he has the authority to do everything he's doing. Your reaction to the first two court decisions?
First of all, absolutely, he has the authority to do what he's doing. As we've seen yesterday, we had momentum where we were giving people money to walk away if you don't want to come to work. Imagine that. And we'll pay you till October. Imagine that, but they tried to stop it. Sean, we know what's going on here. It's very simple. It's the same thing that's been happening for the last 3.5 years. They're panicking, and the only thing they do is go to radical left judges that want to make a name for themselves to stop the executive branch for doing exactly what was mandated to do on November 5th when we swept the nation. It's absolutely ridiculous. And frankly, this is all over everything. I was discussing this actually with Elon, and I said, you know, for all the money you've saved this country, perhaps we should also have a ticker for every case that they're going to bring. It's going to go up while this one goes down, because that's what they do. If we want to save money, people are going to get upset. Why are they getting upset? Because we're taking money out of their pockets. The best thing that Elon Musk is going to do is going to look at people's salaries and say, okay, if you make X amount of money and you're worth $68 million, we're going to look at why that is. And that's really the bottom line, because we could talk about everything, every executive order, but there is a panic in D.C. at this moment where I now live, and it is very simple. We are cutting them off from their funding. And that means politicians, not just saving taxpayer dollars. And that's where the panic is coming from. It's pretty basic.
Wow.
Look, obviously, if you're friends with Donald Trump, you're going to be hated. All right, so we'll check that box on the Elon Musk side. But correct me if I'm wrong, isn't he the guy that offered Starlink when people in North Carolina had no communication with the outside world and he donated that? Didn't he offer the same thing to the people of California? Don't we have 2 astronauts that have been pretty much lost in space or abandoned now for nearly 300 days, and our government can't save them, so he's going to go rescue them? You know, and he's cutting out all of this waste. Well, why would you hate somebody like that?
It's so
I'm
basic.
grateful.
You know what? It's very basic. Let's think about this. In our administration, we have a tremendous amount of billionaires who are successful businessmen. And I could name them all, but we know who they are, who have taken a leave, sold their companies, walked away from their lives to sacrifice to help America be great again. There are many, many. Now, Elon's become a target for one very simple reason, because he is cutting the funding to these politicians who have put their bureaucratic, personal financial gain and interest above the American people. That is the difference. That may not be felt by some of the other people that are in the administration that have done the same thing that Elon does, that are incredibly successful billionaires. But they are targeting him because he is cutting their lifeline, their financial. Listen, Nancy made how much money? And we're going to go down the line of looking at all these people. There is no reason, as a federal employee, me included, I shouldn't walk out richer from the federal government. That should not be the case.
No,
and I open you up to look, because it's not going to
guarantee
happen. You don't do it.
You would make a lot more in the private sector. Elon Musk will probably make a lot
100%.
less, although, you know, when you have that kind of money, that money makes enough money, you know, on its own, in a sense. Even if you put it in a treasury at 5%, not a bad deal. And the president doesn't take a paycheck. He's losing money. People are in this to serve their country. I would argue almost everybody that you see every day in that White House is not making money.
I do. You're right. We don't. And the only reason they're screaming about Elon, it's very simple. Nobody has said it yet, and I'm going to say it. It's because they're hitting their pockets. Only reason they're screaming about Elon. They're not screaming about Howard Lutnick. They're not screaming about Burgum. They're not screaming about those billionaires. They're screaming about him. And that's because he's going in and hitting where it hurts. So you know what happens when you scream and when you sing songs outside at a rally, which, by the way, what are you doing on the American taxpayer dollars, creating songs against the Republican Party? It's bizarre. But when you're doing things like that, that says to me one very simple thing. We have hit your Achilles heel, and we will continue to hit you. We will look at why our children are not educated. We will look at why our children have an increase in ADHD. We will look at why our borders are not safe, why our security is crazy, and why there is fentanyl crisis right now in our country like we have never seen. Because illegal immigrants were supposed to come in and vote for Kamala Harris, but it didn't work out for them. So they are panicking. And Elon may be triggering just a little bit of insecurity, which is that they are worried about us looking at exactly what they've done and exactly how much they've made. And that is now stopping. And it's a panic. It's very simple.
There's a panic on their part. I think a lot of Americans, the average American making 66 grand a year, when they see all this waste, fraud, and abuse, are going to, and they understand it more, they'll be cheering. Alina Habba.
Guys, let me tell you this. They're literally going to investigate every person that when they got into office, they were making a certain money, and when they got out, they had all these millions and millions of dollars. It is insane. Thank you so much, Andy, for the super chat. Let's go. Guys, I'll bring you the receipts, guys. Look at this. This broke this morning. So it's starting with Florida, and they're trying to take it across all the conservative states because what it's doing is it's pulling people in. DeSantis endorses the idea and explains how it can be done of abolishing property taxes. Like, how amazing would that be? On top of that, guys, I want to show you this. President Trump bans the Associated Press from the Oval Office. They will also be banned from Air Force One press spaces. Don't follow the rules, you're going to be banned. They kept trying to say something about it's the Gulf of Mexico, it's the Gulf of Mexico. Trump's like, it's the Gulf of America. If you keep saying that more times, we're going to ban you. They kept saying it, so he said, all right, you're banned. And guys, honestly, it makes sense. You have North America, South America. What's right in the middle? The Gulf of America. Why does Mexico get to be named it when it's just a country They're naming it after the continents. I mean, logically it makes sense. Alex Fox, thank you so much for gifting One True Life News membership. Let's go. And Michael King, thank you so much for the super chat. Said they despise him because he's illuminating the darkness and revealing pure evil. Revealing the corruption. Awesome. Y'all show Michael and Alex some love in the chat, everybody. The judges, guys, I'm telling you though, I don't know what's going to happen with this. I feel like it's going to go to the Supreme Court, but the Supreme Court already said they don't want to deal with it. Listen to this.
You want to talk about a constitutional crisis? Let's talk about the records of these judges. But just to get really granular, one of the top judges who's been really creating issues.
Oh, guys, and I forgot, guys, we got over almost 2,300 people watching, guys. We're so close. If you don't mind hitting the thumbs up like button, let's hit 2,000 likes. We can do it, guys.
President Trump is none other, not Mitch McConnell, but John McConnell, the chief judge out in Rhode Island, who is not only just blocking President Trump's federal spending freeze, but he's even going so far as to threaten criminal charges against President Trump and those of his advisors who want to kind of roll out that policy proposal. Just to set the stage, we're going to play a kind of smattering of clips showing you just how radical this guy is. But this is someone who was a member of the Finance Committee back for Hillary Clinton's Senate campaign, hosted fundraisers for her, was on the board of Planned Parenthood, helped ACLU sue ICE over a dead Chinese, probably Communist Party-linked migrant, worked on countless Democratic campaigns collectively between him and his wife. They've donated six figures to Democratic politicians, candidates, campaigns, and the media wants to just make the headline, right? Oh, judge slaps down dictator Trump wanting to do a federal spending freeze. But I want to play this montage of clips if we can, just to show you how truly beyond the pale and radical this so-called independent arbiter of fact and this, legal mind that the mainstream media is now wooing over. Judge John McConnell, let's roll the clips.
We're not playing the clip?
You got to toss to it.
Okay, I have to toss
Government
it.
action when you're sentencing.
By the way, I just want to make sure the engine rooms sending me something. What we call this is
I love this, guys. It's real. It's real. That's why I show it.
Government actions when you're sentencing someone, when we talk about sentencing, that you have to take a moment and realize that this, middle-class, white, male, privileged person needs to understand the human being that comes before us, that may be a woman and may be black, may be transgender, may be poor, may be rich, may be whatever, where courts stand and enforce the rule of law that is against arbitrary and capricious actions by what could be a tyrant or could be whatnot. We saw plenty of examples of that recently. So too often, to really understand this, we fall back on kind of a stereotypical comment that judges should have no opinions and whatnot. And that's just not true. We have put together a diversity and inclusion and racial justice committee that has three goals, that in many ways racism is a white people's problem and white people need to figure out how to solve it and need to do the hard work to fixing it. We all have racism, obviously, but not the overt kind. So I think where he's had the biggest impact.
Okay, so Natalie, and by the way, I want to thank for getting that it worked out. The engine rooms sent me that this is forum shopping, the official term of our forum or venue shopping, and that's what you're seeing here. Is that the federal judge? That guy sounds like a mid-level Grundoon activist, ma'am.
No, that is the federal judge. It's absolutely absurd.
Guys.
The buried lead to of that whole kind of display of commentary, it was back in 2021. I obtained the whole hour-long event. I watched it. I cringed through every moment. But he was actually speaking to high school, both children and their parents. So that was his sort of watered down version of radicalism. But no, that's the chief judge, like I said, in Rhode Island, who runs the court up there. And basically, Steve, I mean, they, and when I say they, I mean the Mark Eliases of the world, the Norm Eisens, the people who are sort of the architects of the Democrat current lawfare strategy. They've admitted to court shopping, right? That was sort of what they were planning, I think, since they saw President Trump win North Carolina and then Pennsylvania. They started realizing we need to get, kind of our work in order. But I just think it sort of broadly, more conceptually goes back to this idea, right, that the NGOs that we're bankrolling, they're not actually NGOs. They're traitors and they're organizations that are being used to destroy this country. Bureaucrats are not bureaucrats. They're embeds. Schools are not schools, right? They're indoctrination grounds. And in the same way, I think the brilliance of President Trump is he can sort of unmask and reveal the radicalism and politicization of every aspect of American society, though I guess it's not really politicization. It's just the embedding of the deep state.
Embedding of the deep state, guys. And look, Trump is cleaning it out right now. Trump just signed an executive order. Check this out. This is breaking news. This is Trump signing. He has cut all federal funding to schools that mandate the COVID vaccine. So, you want to take it on your own account? That's cool with you. But don't force people to take it. And now, guys, this is for local schools. This is for colleges. Remember, there was kids that if they didn't take it, they would literally be kicked out of school. And on top of that, guys, more breaking news from our new HHS secretary. From the leading report, HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to investigate the cause of autism per Fox. Because remember, like, what was it, 50 years ago? It was 1 in 30,000 kids had autism. And then now in 2025, 1 in 36 kids, guys. Hear that. 1 in 36 kids has autism. Something's, I'm not going to say it. We're just going to let him reveal it. Thank you so much, Andy, for the super chat. Said AOC net worth is $13 million. Golly, they got a lot of money. Thank you so much, The British Perspective, who said Trump needs to imprison people, sending a clear message. I believe we're about to see some Democrats in the next month hit the slammer. And thank you so much, Andy, again for the super chat, who said this judge's daughter works for Biden at the Department of Education. Well, I'm glad that we're about to see that Department of Education go away. But guys, I want to show you this because right now, the big budget deal, what's going on with the big, huge budget, $4.5 trillion in tax cuts. Jim Jordan is leading the way. Listen to the update right with this.
Today, as House Speaker Johnson says, there are still many steps before President Trump actually sees a bill. Congressman Jim Jordan, one of my favorites of all times, is the chair of the House Judiciary Committee. He joins me now. I think I was the first person to interview you when you got into Congress, wasn't I?
I think that's right, David.
So we've known each other
again. I always, a long time, 15 years or so, I've been coming on your show.
Long time. So one big, beautiful bill. That's what the president said.
Yeah.
Since then, he's modified a little bit, saying, well, if it has to be two, maybe we can work it out. But are you still for one big, beautiful bill?
Well, that's what the House position is. Look, I'm for doing what we told the American people we were going to do. If that's one bill, two bills, or 100 bills, I don't care. I just want to get it done. I like the bill that's been put forward in the Budget Committee. Let's hope it gets through the Budget Committee, then goes to each committee. We find the savings, and then we put it all back together, and you got the one big, beautiful bill. But if it's two, it's two. I always say we make this job way too complicated. What you tell the voters you were going to do. If you get elected, when you put your name on the ballot, if they vote for you and you get elected, go do what you said. And so let's just focus on that. If it's one bill, great. If it's two bill, great. Let's just get it done.
But the problem is the rules that you have to go by are so screwed. I was going to say screwed up, but I just said it anyway. They are kind of screwed up. I mean, the bottom line is we know that the 2017 tax cuts have brought in an additional $1.5 trillion in revenue from the time they kicked in at about 2018. So that's an extra 1.5. This particular bill says that the extension is going to cost $4.5 trillion. How I know you have to do that, but could you explain that to folks who are looking for common sense in the Beltway?
Yeah, it's the cumbersome way that things get scored here in D.C. We all know when you let families, entrepreneurs, job creators keep more of their money, they go out and spend it, and they create jobs, and they grow our economy, and that growth gets extra revenue to the Treasury. So yeah, we're going to factor in a pretty robust growth estimate here, somewhere I think between 2.5% to 3%. I actually think there's a good chance under President Trump's policies that we get even stronger growth.
Yes.
But we're going to put together a package that shows that we're actually saving some money for the taxpayers. After all, we're running huge deficits. We got a $36 trillion debt. We need to do that. But we're also going to put together a package that does what we told the voters we were going to do. Secures the border. You need resources to do that.
Yes.
Keeps the tax cuts in place. Adds some additional tax cuts so families keep more of their money, so our economy grows like we want it to grow, like it was growing 4 or 5 years ago when President Trump was in office then.
Yeah, I have to ask, not everything I think is rosy in the Trump administration. One thing I have difficulty with is his calling for a sovereign wealth fund by early next year. I've seen in many other countries in the world these sovereign wealth funds leading to tremendous corruption. We have DOGE trying to get rid of those agencies within which we have seen this development of a horribly corrupt system, perhaps even kickbacks. Why would we start another agency that is just tailor-made for that insider deal-making that Congress people do that most Americans hate?
Yeah. I mean, I want to see the details before, because I don't know. Again, this would be a new concept for our great country. Let's see the details, how it all works. Is it like what we see in other nations? I don't know. So I want to wait until I see the details. But what I do know is what Elon Musk is doing, identifying the stupid spending, is a good thing. It's amazing to me. Instead of criticizing the stupid spending, Democrats criticize the guy who's exposing the stupid spending. I mean, I do not get that. And I think it really, David, boils down to this sort of fundamental difference the left and we conservatives have. We actually think the power should be with the people and the folks they elect, i.e. the president in this situation, not with the career bureaucrats who are so much smarter, the experts in the government who pretend they're so much smarter than us regular people. No, I'll trust the guy who was elected by 77 million when he told us he was going to put this organization together. He told us Elon Musk was going to lead it. I'll trust them over the bureaucracy any day of the week.
Congressman Jim Jordan, always
guys, I love it, guys. And we just had DOGE just release some more news. Check this out, guys. If this isn't the corrupt, $1.9 billion of HUD money was just recovered after being misplaced. How the heck do you misplace $1.9 billion? It was misplaced during the Biden administration due to its broken process. So there's almost $2 billion that DOGE has given back to the American people. Thank you so much, Miss B, for the super chat. Let's go. Y'all show Miss B some love in the chat, guys. This is beautiful. I love it. Thank you to everybody that's watching, guys. If you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. If you don't mind, guys, we are so close to hitting 2,000 likes. Click that like button if you don't mind. That's what our sponsor is, guys. You're our sponsor. It's free. It helps the channel grow. We appreciate it so much. Want to show some love to everybody that is a member of the channel. If you want to be a member, the link is in the description to join. And thank you to everybody that's given a super chat donation, guys. In about 8 days, we're going to be doing our live online donation to the charity New Beginnings, which helps out women with unplanned pregnancies, helps out with adoption, finds forever homes, guys. This is a beautiful charity we're going to be donating to in about 8 days, and that's where the super chats and the memberships go to. We all pull together, guys. We've been able to give in the past 5 months almost $25,000 to these charities with partnering with you. I want to give some love to Sherry Garcia, Woodbury Hill Studio, Andy, Lay Lewis, Virginia Friday, Alex Fox, Michael King, The British Perspective, Miss B, Lyle J. Barcombe. Thank you so much for the super chat. The Wealth Fund. So we're talking about the Wealth Fund. That is basically putting money aside to really focus on what could really drive America the furthest forward in the entire world in terms of national highways or technology, AI, things like that. That's what Trump is wanting to get done, because we like the Pentagon does stuff, you know, certain private companies do stuff. What he wants to create is more of a focus on making sure that the United States is at the cutting edge of technology in all aspects. And that's what that wealth fund is supposed to be for. But just want to say thank you to everybody, guys. Love y'all so much. Appreciate your support, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.